"Get out of my chair," he said, voice shaking, then stopped cold when he realized she wasn't pretending to sleep. "Before we dive into the story, let me ask you something real. Have you ever made one bad decision on a long day, only to realize it could change someone else's life forever? If you have, you already understand more than you think. Now, let me take you back to where this all began. The chair was the one thing he never shared. It sat by the window on the 32nd floor, angled just enough to catch the afternoon light. Leather, hand-stitched, imported. It faced the skyline like a promise he made to himself years ago. Control, quiet, order. Ethan Caldwell stopped in the doorway of his office and felt his chest tighten. Someone was sitting in it. No sleeping. Her shoes were off. Her head leaned to one side, dark curls spilling over the armrest. One hand rested open on her lap like she'd dropped something invisible and forgotten to pick it up. Ethan's breath went shallow. The air felt wrong. Too loud. Too close. He counted in his head. 1, 2, 3. The way his therapist taught him. This wasn't possible. He didn't allow people in here alone. He didn't allow mess. He didn't allow... "Hey!" he said, sharper than he meant. "You can't." She startled awake, eyes wide, body jerking upright. Panic crossed her face before confusion settled in. I'm sorry," she said, scrambling to stand. "I just needed a minute. I didn't mean..." Ethan raised a hand without thinking. Not to touch her. To stop everything. "Don't move," he said. The word landed heavy between them. She froze. And in that moment, standing there in his perfect office, heart racing, rules broken, Ethan made a decision that would follow both of them for a very long time. 3 weeks earlier, the building felt different. It always did in the early mornings. Quiet. Predictable. The kind of silence that didn't surprise you. Ethan arrived at exactly 6:15 a.m., as he always did. Same Blacktown car. Same driver. Same greeting in the lobby. "Morning, Mr. Caldwell." Ethan nodded once. He didn't like small talk before coffee. The elevator ride up was smooth. No bumps. No unexpected stops. He exhaled as the doors closed. Control mattered to him. People liked to joke about his quirks, but they didn't see the work behind them. The way order kept the noise down. The way patterns kept his mind from spiraling. He'd built an empire on details. Logistics. Systems. If something could be controlled, it should be. That belief had made him a billionaire before 40. It had also made him very alone. On the 22nd floor, Maya Thompson signed in with the security desk, her badge dangling from a lanyard that had seen better days. She adjusted the straps of her backpack and glanced at the clock. 6:17 a.m., close enough. "Morning," the guard said. "You're early." "Trying something new," Maya replied with a tired smile. Early meant quieter. Fewer people watching. Less chance of someone commenting on the scuffed soles of her sneakers or the way her uniform never quite fit right. She liked the building before it woke up. The echo of her steps. The way the city looked half-finished through the glass. Cleaning wasn't her dream. It wasn't even her plan. But it paid cash on Fridays. And right now, that mattered more than dreams. Maya started on the lower floors, moving with practiced ease. Trash, desks, restrooms. She worked fast, careful not to leave streaks or miss corners. She took pride in that, even if no one noticed. By the time she reached the executive floors, her legs ached. She hadn't slept much the night before. Her sister's cough had kept her up. The landlord's voicemail played over and over in her head. Rent was late. Again. "You've got this," she whispered to herself, pressing the elevator button. The doors opened to a floor that smelled like lemon polish and money. She worked her way down the hall, careful with the offices that had special instructions taped inside the closets. Don't move personal items. Don't touch desk drawers. Don't sit. She followed the rules. Until she didn't. Ethan's office was last. Always last. She saved it because it took the most energy. The most focus. Everything in that room had a place. If she moved something an inch, she had to put it back exactly. Her stomach growled as she wiped the desk. She checked her phone. 7:42 a.m. Just 5 minutes, she told herself. Just to rest. The chair looked too comfortable to ignore. She hesitated. Then she sat. At first, she planned to stand right back up. But the leather was cool. The room was warm. The city hummed softly outside. Her eyes closed before she could stop them. When Ethan told her not to move, Maya felt something old crawl up her spine. Not fear exactly. More like warning. "I'm sorry," she said again, softer this time. "I know I shouldn't be here. I didn't sleep. I'll go." She stepped back from the chair. Ethan stared at the crease she'd left in the cushion. His mind raced. Germs. Disorder. Rules broken. And beneath all that, something else. "You're the cleaner," he said. Came out flat, like a fact he didn't care to learn. "Yes. You were asleep." "Yes. You know you're not allowed to sit." "I do," she said quickly. "It won't happen again." He should have told her to leave. He should have reported it and moved on. Instead, he asked, "Why didn't you sleep?" The question surprised them both. Maya blinked. "I what?" He cleared his throat. "Why didn't you sleep?" She looked at the floor. "Because life doesn't always ask permission." The words hung there. Ethan felt something shift. Not sympathy. Not yet. Curiosity. "Go," he said finally. "But leave your badge." Her head snapped up. "My badge? I'll return it later," he said. "Security needs to log the incident." That's my job," she said, panic creeping in. "I can't lose." "I didn't say you were fired," Ethan replied. "I said leave it." She hesitated, then unclipped the badge and placed it carefully on the desk. Her hands shook. "I'll wait downstairs," she said. "No," Ethan said. The word stopped her cold again. "I'll have someone walk you out," he continued, already reaching for his phone. "Protocol." Maya swallowed. As she followed him toward the door, she had the strangest thought, that this wasn't over. Not even close. That night, Ethan sat alone in his penthouse, staring at the city lights. The chair from his office had been cleaned, reset, perfect. Still, he couldn't sit in it. Maya lay awake on her sister's couch, staring at the ceiling, wondering how one mistake could feel like a door closing. Neither of them slept. And somewhere between control and exhaustion, between power and survival, a line had been crossed. In the morning, Ethan would make a choice he believed was necessary. And Maya would learn how easily procedure could turn into something else entirely. Something that would test both of them in ways neither could see coming yet. The next morning came too fast. Maya stood outside the glass tower with her backpack at her feet, watching people stream in like nothing had changed. Suits, lanyards, coffee cups, a whole world that kept moving while her phone stayed silent. She checked it again anyway. No new messages. No calls from the cleaning company. No schedule update. Just the same unread voicemail from the landlord and the same knot in her stomach. At 8:12 a.m., her phone finally rang. "Ms. Thompson," a woman said, voice clipped and polite. "This is Human Resources from Caldwell Group. We need you to come inside." Maya hesitated. "Am I in trouble?" There was a pause, just long enough to feel deliberate. "We need to discuss an incident," the woman replied. "Security will escort you." The word escort landed wrong. But Maya picked up her bag and walked in. Ethan hadn't slept. He stood in his kitchen, counting the clicks of the coffee machine. 1, 2, 3. He wiped the counter that was already clean. He checked his watch, then checked it again. He told himself this was routine, a breach of protocol. A response was required. That was all. Still, his chest felt tight as he entered the conference room on the 29th floor. The chairs were aligned perfectly. The table gleamed. Too perfect. When Maya walked in with security, she looked smaller than he remembered. Not weak, just tired. Her eyes flicked to him for half a second, then dropped to the floor. "Sit," the HR director said gently. Maya sat. Ethan remained standing. "We're here to document what happened yesterday morning," the director continued. "Mr. Caldwell, would you like to explain your concern?" Ethan cleared his throat. An unauthorized person was found sleeping in my office. In my chair. Maya flinched at the word sleeping, like it was a crime. I didn't mean to, she said quickly. I was exhausted. I've never. This isn't about intent, Ethan cut in. He didn't look at her. It's about boundaries. The director nodded. Ms. Thompson, were you aware that sitting in executive offices is prohibited? Yes, Maya said. I know the rules. I broke them. I'm sorry. Silence settled over the table. Ethan felt something press against his ribs. Not anger. Something closer to pressure. Like the room was shrinking. What happens now? Maya asked quietly. The director folded her hands. We're placing you on administrative hold pending review. Maya's head snapped up. Hold. You'll be paid for the remainder of the week, the director said. But your access badge will remain inactive. You are not to return to the building until further notice. Maya's fingers curled around the edge of the chair. So I'm suspended, she said. Yes. For falling asleep, Maya added. For violating protocol, the director corrected. Ethan finally looked at her. Her eyes weren't angry. They were scared. Is there anything else? Maya asked. Ethan hesitated. Then, without fully understanding why, he said, There's an NDA. The director glanced at him. Sir, a non-disclosure agreement, Ethan said. Standard. For anyone who enters my office space. Maya frowned. I already signed one when I started. This is different, Ethan replied. This one is specific. The director slid a document across the table. Maya scanned it. Her breathing quickened. This says I can't talk about any part of my work here, she said. Not just the office. Not just yesterday. Any part. It's temporary, Ethan said. Until the review is complete. And how long is that? Maya asked. Ethan didn't answer. Because he didn't know. Or maybe because he did. By noon, Maya was back on her sister's couch. The NDA folded neatly in her bag like a warning. You okay? Her sister asked from the kitchen. Yeah, Maya lied. Just paperwork. Her sister nodded, already distracted by a pot boiling over. Maya stared at the wall. She tried to frame it in her head. It's just a pause. It's not prison. It's not the end. But it felt like something had been taken from her. Her routine, her access, her voice. Freedom didn't always disappear with bars and locks. Sometimes it left quietly, wrapped in policies and signatures. Ethan spent the afternoon pacing his office. The chair still felt wrong. He couldn't sit in it. He couldn't stop seeing her there, curled slightly to one side, like she'd finally let herself rest. Why had that bothered him so much? He told himself it was about control, about order, about rules. But late in the day, he pulled up the security footage anyway. He watched her enter the office alone, watched her clean, watched her hesitate at the chair. He watched her sit, watched her shoulders drop, her face soften. He paused the video. For the first time, he noticed how thin she looked, how carefully she moved, even when she thought no one was watching. Ethan shut the laptop. This wasn't supposed to feel like this. The call came 2 days later. Maya Thompson? A man asked. Yes. This is legal from Caldwell Group. We need you to come in tomorrow. Maya's stomach dropped. Am I fired? That hasn't been decided, the man said. But there are concerns. Concerns about what? There was a pause. Then, about trust. The second meeting was worse. No Ethan. Just lawyers. Just words that slid past her ears and left her cold. They asked about her background, her previous jobs, her family. They asked why she'd been tired. They asked if she'd ever taken anything from an office. No, Maya said over and over. Never. They nodded. They wrote notes. Then one of them said, We'll need to verify your references. Until then, your contract is under review. How long? Maya asked. Hard to say. She left the building feeling lighter and heavier at the same time. Outside, she leaned against the wall and breathed. She hadn't stolen anything. but she felt like she was paying for something she didn't know how to name. That night, Ethan sat alone again. His assistant had sent him the legal summary. No wrongdoing. No theft. Just a violation. Minor. So why did his chest still feel tight? He drafted an email. Deleted it. Drafted another. Finally, he wrote, "This review has gone far enough." He didn't send it. Instead, he stared at the skyline and told himself this was necessary. That boundaries mattered. That consequences protected order. Still, a thought crept in he didn't want to face. What if I'm protecting myself more than I'm protecting anything else? Maya lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You didn't deserve this." She sat up. "Who is this?" She typed. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No reply came. Outside, the city hummed on. Inside, Maya felt something shift. Not hope, not fear, but resolve. Whatever this was becoming, she wasn't going to disappear quietly. And somewhere across the city, Ethan felt the same pull, that what he'd started could no longer be contained by rules alone. The next step would force them both to choose control or conscience. The city moved on without asking either of them how they felt. Morning trains stayed packed. Coffee shops stayed loud. People laughed on sidewalks like nothing fragile was breaking behind glass walls and locked conference rooms. Maya learned quickly what waiting feels like when you can't afford it. Her days fell out of shape. No early alarm. No bus ride downtown. No checklist of floors and offices. Just hours stretching thin, filled with small noises she'd never noticed before. The hum of the fridge, the neighbor's TV through the wall, her sister's coughing at night. "You hear anything?" her sister asked on the 4th day. Maya shook her head. "Not yet." Her sister tried to smile. "They'll call." Maya nodded, but she didn't believe it the way she wanted to. She filled out job applications anyway. Grocery stores, laundromats, anywhere that would answer fast. Most didn't. When her phone buzzed, her heart jumped every time. It was never them. Ethan told himself the same story on repeat. This is temporary. This is procedure. This is how organizations protect themselves. He said it while walking through the lobby. He said it while adjusting the alignment of papers on his desk. He said it when his assistant asked why he hadn't used the chair all week. "I'm fine," he replied. He wasn't. The office felt wrong. Too quiet. Too controlled. Like a room holding its breath. He avoided the 22nd floor. Avoided the cleaning schedules. Avoided the thought that one small moment had cracked something he'd spent years reinforcing. When his therapist asked about it, Ethan waved it off. "It's not emotional," he said. "It's logistical." She raised an eyebrow. "Then why are you talking about it?" He didn't answer. Maya went back to the building once. Not inside. Just across the street. She sat on a bench with a coffee she didn't really want and watched employees come and go. Some she recognized. Some she didn't. No one looked at her. That hurt more than she expected. She pulled the NDA from her bag and read it again. The language was careful. Broad. Heavy. It didn't just stop her from talking about Ethan. It stopped her from telling her story. She folded it and shoved it back into her bag. "I didn't do anything wrong," she whispered. But the city didn't answer. Ethan's assistant brought him a stack of reports that afternoon. "Legal needs your sign-off," she said. "They recommend extending the review." "How long?" Ethan asked. She hesitated. "Another 30 days. Ethan felt something sink in his stomach. "Why?" he asked. "Because they can," she replied. "And because no one's pushing back." Ethan signed anyway. The pen felt heavier than it should have. On the 8th day, Maya's sister came home quiet. "They're cutting my hours," she said. "Just temporary." Maya nodded. "I'll figure something out." She applied to 3 more jobs that night. One rejected her within minutes. She didn't cry. She couldn't afford to. Instead, she cleaned the apartment until her hands ached. Scrubbed surfaces already clean. Organized drawers that didn't need it. Control, she realized, wasn't just for rich men in tall buildings. It was for anyone scared of falling apart. Ethan sat at his dining table that same night, staring at his phone. He typed Maya's name into the company system more times than he wanted to admit. Read her file. Noted the gaps. The long hours. The lack of complaints. She'd been a good employee. He knew that. So why hadn't he fixed this? Because fixing it meant admitting something else. That his reaction hadn't been just about rules. It had been about fear. The idea unsettled him. He put the phone down. 2 days later, Maya finally got a call. "Ms. Thompson," the voice said. "This is Caldwell Group Legal." Her heart raced. "Yes. We need additional time," the man continued. "Your status remains unchanged." "So, I'm still suspended," Maya said. "Yes. For how long?" "We'll be in touch." The line went dead. Maya stared at the phone. She felt invisible. That evening, Ethan attended a charity dinner he couldn't cancel. Black tie, smiles, small talk. Someone mentioned the cleaning staff in passing. A joke, light, thoughtless. Ethan laughed when expected. Then he stopped. The sound caught in his throat. He excused himself and stepped outside into the cold. For the first time, he wondered what power looked like from the other side of the glass. Maya packed her bag that night, not to leave town, just to be ready. She didn't know what for yet, but she knew this waiting quietly wasn't working. Somewhere between denial and resolve, both of them were circling the truth. And the longer they avoided it, the more damage it did. Because denial doesn't keep things the same. It only delays the reckoning. And when it comes, it always asks for more than you plan to give. The email came at 6:03 a.m. Subject: Mandatory site review. Attendance required. Maya read it twice, then a third time. Mandatory. Attendance. Her badge was still inactive. Her status unchanged. And yet, here it was, an order dressed up as an invitation. She called the number at the bottom. "This is Maya Thompson," she said. "I received an email saying I'm required to attend a site review. My access is disabled." "Yes," the woman replied. "Security will meet you at the lobby. Mr. Caldwell requested your presence." Maya closed her eyes. Ethan had made the call himself. He told legal it was necessary. Told HR it was efficient. Told himself it was neutral. A tenant complaint had escalated. Mold claims. Photos. Threats of a lawsuit. The 22nd floor contractors were being audited, and the cleaning logs mattered. Maya's name was on them. He could have handled it without her. He didn't. When the elevator doors opened and she stepped out, Ethan felt the room tilt. She looked thinner than he remembered. Tired, but steady. "Mr. Caldwell," she said, formal. "Maya," he replied, then corrected himself. "Ms. Thompson." They stood there, two people pretending this was ordinary. "It's a walkthrough," Ethan said. "We'll be quick." She nodded. "I'm here to answer questions." They moved down the hall together. Their steps didn't match. The site was a mid-rise apartment building on the south side. Brick exterior. Old plumbing. The kind of place where problems hid behind paint. Inside, the air smelled faintly of bleach and damp walls. Ethan noticed how Maya's shoulders tightened as they entered. "You worked here," he said. "Yes." "How often?" 3 times a week. She knew the building. The shortcuts. The broken stair that always caught your toe. She pointed things out without being asked. "That leak's been there since winter," she said quietly. "They keep patching it." Ethan made a note. They moved floor to floor, questions coming easy now. The tension shifted, less about power, more about purpose. At one point, they stood alone in an empty unit. Sunlight cut through dust in the air. "You shouldn't be here," Maya said suddenly. Ethan looked at her. "I mean, with me," she clarified. "This isn't fair. I'm still suspended." "I know," he said. "Then why am I here?" He hesitated. The truth pressed at him. "Because you know this place," he said instead. "And because I trust your work." The words surprised them both. Maya studied his face, searching for something. She didn't smile. "Trust doesn't usually come with paperwork," she said. He didn't argue. By noon, they were both exhausted. They sat on the building's front steps, paper cups of bad coffee between them. You could end this, Maya said, not looking at him. The suspension. The NDA. Ethan stared at the street. It's complicated. For you, she replied. He nodded. Yes. Silence stretched. Cars passed. Someone laughed across the street. You ever sleep in your office again? Maya asked. No. She nodded. Thought so. He glanced at her. Why? Because it wasn't about the chair, she said. It was about what it represented. He felt seen, uncomfortable, honest. When they returned downtown, the building felt different. Security let Maya through without comment. A quiet permission. At the elevator, Ethan stopped. There's a hearing next week, he said. Internal. About the review. And? Maya asked. And I want you there, he said. Not as a cleaner. As a witness. To what? She asked. To what happened, he said. And to what didn't. She considered him. The risk. The imbalance. Okay, she said finally. But I won't lie. I wouldn't ask you to, Ethan replied. As they parted ways, Maya felt something unfamiliar rise in her chest. Not relief. Possibility. That night, Ethan sat in the chair again. For the first time since the incident. It still wasn't perfect. But neither was he. Across town, Maya opened her laptop and began writing notes for the hearing. Facts. Dates. Truth. Whatever came next, it wouldn't be quiet. And as both of them prepared for what lay ahead, one thing was clear. Being in the same room had changed the rules. The next step would force them to decide who those rules were really for. The hearing was set for Tuesday at 10. Maya circled the date on her calendar even though she didn't need to. It sat heavy in her mind, waking her up before her alarm. Every morning felt like standing at the edge of something that could tilt either way. She spent the days preparing. Not rehearsing speeches. Just writing things down as they came to her. Times, places, small moments that added up to a truth she hadn't been allowed to say out loud. The NDA lay on the table beside her notebook. She hated how quiet it was. How final. Her sister watched her from the doorway. You nervous? Maya nodded. I don't know what they want from me. Her sister crossed the room and squeezed her shoulder. Tell what happened. That's all you can do. Maya wished it were that simple. Ethan prepared in a different way. He read every memo, every legal note, every version of the story that had been written without Maya's voice in it. The language was careful, polished, designed to protect the company first. That used to make him feel safe. Now it made his skin crawl. His assistant noticed the change. You're quiet today. I'm thinking, Ethan said. About the hearing? Yes. She hesitated. You know this could get messy. Ethan nodded. I know. He also knew something else. That if he stayed silent, the mess would land on someone who couldn't afford it. The night before the hearing, Maya couldn't sleep. She stood at the window, watching headlights blur past on the street below. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. If you need anything tomorrow, tell me. She stared at it for a long time before replying. I need honesty. 3 dots appeared. Then you'll have it. The conference room felt colder than usual. Glass walls. Long table. Bottled water no one touched. Maya sat at one end. Ethan at the other. Legal. A compliance officer she didn't recognize. The director cleared her throat. We're here to review the incident from March and determine appropriate action. Maya's hands were steady. She surprised herself with that. They asked her to speak. She did. She talked about the hours, the rules, the exhaustion. She didn't beg. She didn't blame. She told the truth the way she lived it. Plain and careful. When she finished, the room was quiet. Then one of the lawyers spoke. Ms. Thompson, do you understand that falling asleep in an executive office represents a serious breach of trust? Maya nodded. I understand it broke a rule. Do you regret it? She paused. I regret that I didn't feel like I could rest anywhere else. The words landed hard. Ethan leaned forward. That matters, he said. The lawyer looked at him. Sir, that matters, Ethan repeated. Because context matters. He stood. I overreacted, he said. I let my need for control override judgment. The suspension went too far. The NDA was excessive. The room shifted. Ethan kept going. This company prides itself on values. If we punish exhaustion without examining the conditions that cause it, we're lying to ourselves. Silence followed. The director closed her folder. We'll deliberate. Maya waited in the hallway. She counted tiles, watched shadows move behind glass. Ethan joined her a few minutes later. No matter what happens, he said. I'm sorry. She studied him. That's a start. The door opened. They were called back in. The decision was read slowly. The suspension lifted. The NDA voided. No further action. Maya exhaled. She hadn't realized she'd been holding her breath for weeks. As they left the room, Ethan felt something loosen inside him too. But relief didn't last long. Outside the building, a reporter waited. Mr. Caldwell, she called out. Care to comment on the internal review involving a suspended cleaner? Maya froze. Ethan stepped forward. Her name is Maya Thompson, he said. And yes, I'll comment. Cameras flashed. Maya felt the ground shift again, because the truth was finally out. And once it was, there would be no going back. Whatever came next would be bigger than a chair, bigger than a building. It would test whether doing the right thing was enough to change what came after. The story didn't wait for permission. By noon, it was everywhere. Headlines softened the truth into something clickable. Billionaire faces internal review after cleaner incident. Others sharpened it. Power, privilege, and punishment inside Caldwell Group. Maya didn't recognize herself in any of it. She sat at the small kitchen table, laptop open, watching her name scroll past on social media. Comments stacked fast. Some kind, some cruel. Most confident in facts they didn't have. Her sister leaned against the counter. You okay? I don't know, Maya said. I feel loud. Her phone buzzed. Unknown numbers. Missed calls. One voicemail after another. She turned the phone face down. Ethan walked into a different kind of noise. Board members filled the conference room. Faces tight. Voices low but urgent. This is a liability, one of them said. You shouldn't have spoken. I told the truth, Ethan replied. You named her, another added. You personalized it. She's a person, Ethan said. That's the point. The room went still. You've put the company in a vulnerable position, the chairwoman said carefully. Public opinion is shifting. Ethan nodded. So should we. She studied him. Are you prepared for what that costs? He didn't answer right away. Yes, he said finally. Maya left the apartment that afternoon. She needed air, space, something that wasn't a screen. She walked past the corner store, the bus stop, the park where kids chased each other without knowing anything about power or press. A woman stopped her near the coffee shop. You're her, the woman said. From the article. Maya stiffened. Yes, the woman smiled. I'm glad you spoke up. Maya nodded, unsure what to say. 2 blocks later, a man muttered something under his breath. Something sharp. Something unfair. The balance hit her all at once. Visibility wasn't freedom. It was exposure. Ethan called her that evening. I should have asked, he said. Before speaking, Maya sat on the edge of her bed. I don't regret it. I just didn't expect it. I know, he said. And I'm sorry. There was a pause. They're pressuring me, Ethan admitted, to step back, to let someone else handle this. And will you? Maya asked. He hesitated. I don't want to, he said. But wanting isn't always enough. Maya closed her eyes. I don't want to be the reason you lose everything. You're not, Ethan said quickly. This isn't on you. She wasn't sure she believed that. The next morning, Ethan woke to a message from legal. Emergency board meeting. 9 a.m. mandatory. He knew what it meant. He arrived early. Sat alone at the long table. Hands folded. Breathing steady. They didn't waste time. The board has lost confidence, the chairwoman said. Not in your leadership overall, but in your judgment regarding this matter. Ethan listened. We're asking you to take a temporary leave, she continued, for the good of the company. How temporary? Ethan asked. She didn't answer. Maya found out from the news. She stared at the headline until the words blurred. CEO steps back amid controversy. Her phone rang. Ethan's name. I didn't mean for this to happen, she said as soon as she answered. I know, he replied, and I don't regret it. But this needed to break, Ethan said. Something had to. Maya felt tears rise. I just wanted my job back. And you deserved that, he said. You deserved more. Silence followed. Heavy. Honest. What happens now? She asked. Ethan looked out the window of his office one last time. The chair sat empty. I don't know, he said. But I think we find out who we are without the armor. That night Maya packed again. Not because she was running, but because staying still felt impossible. Ethan left the building alone. No driver. No schedule. 2 lives unsettled. 2 paths unclear. And somewhere between consequence and courage, both of them stood at the edge of something fragile, wondering if what they'd lost was the price of what they were about to become. Ethan moved into the guest house on the edge of his property. It wasn't punishment. It was space. The main house stayed locked. Lights off. Cleaners paused. The silence felt different there. Too sharp, too familiar. The guest house smelled like pine and old books. It had dust in the corners and a couch that didn't match anything. Felt human. He slept poorly the first few nights. Not because of noise, but because his mind kept reaching for patterns that weren't there anymore. No schedule. No assistance. No daily briefing at 6:30. Just hours. Open. Empty. For the first time in years, he let them stay that way. Maya drove south. Not far. Just far enough that the streets changed. Fewer high-rises. More gas stations. A stretch of highway where the radio faded in and out. She stayed with an old friend in a small town outside Sacramento. A spare room. A quiet porch. A dog that didn't care who she was online. She slept hard the first night. Woke with the sun. No alerts. No headlines. For a few hours, she felt like herself again. Then her phone buzzed. A message from an advocacy group. Then a journalist. Then another woman. Someone who'd worked as a cleaner years ago, telling her thank you. Maya sat on the porch steps and read them slowly. This wasn't just her story anymore. That scared her. And it mattered. Ethan spent a morning at a grocery store. He hadn't been inside one in years. He stood in the cereal aisle too long, staring at boxes like they were puzzles. A woman bumped into him and apologized without looking. He nodded, smiled, said, "You're good." Felt small, real. Checkout, his card declined. He froze. The cashier waited. People shifted behind him. He tried again. Same result. His assistant used to handle limits, accounts, alerts. He stepped aside, called the bank, fixed it. When he returned, the cashier said, "Happens all the time." He paid, thanked her. As he walked out, he realized his hands were shaking. Not from embarrassment, from awareness. Maya met with a lawyer 2 days later. Not to sue, to understand. They sat in a modest office with framed photos of families on the wall. "You don't have to become a symbol," the lawyer said gently. "You can choose boundaries." "I don't know how," Maya admitted. "That's okay," the woman said. "We'll learn them together." Maya nodded, wrote things down, asked questions she'd never thought she was allowed to ask. When she left, she felt taller. Ethan watched the news less. He read more. Articles. Long ones. First-person essays from people who worked under systems like his. He saw patterns he'd never named before. He didn't excuse himself anymore. He didn't spiral either. He listened. One afternoon, his sister stopped by. She looked around the guest house. The unpacked boxes. The quiet. "You okay?" she asked. "I'm learning," Ethan said. She studied him. "That's new." He smiled, tired but honest. "I think I was hiding behind rules," he said, calling it control, calling it safety. And now, Now I'm not sure what I am without them. She touched his arm. You'll find out. Maya returned to the city a week later. Not to work. To face it. She walked past the building where it had happened. Slowed. Stopped. Nothing looked different. Everything felt changed. She didn't go inside. She didn't need to. That night, she opened her laptop and wrote. Not a statement. Not a response. Just her truth. No polish. No anger. No apology. When she posted it, she turned the laptop off and went to bed. Ethan read it the next morning. He didn't rush. He sat on the porch, coffee cooling in his hands, and let the words land. She didn't villainize him. That hurt more. She talked about exhaustion, about dignity, about being unseen until she was inconvenient. He closed his eyes. For the first time, he didn't want to fix it. He wanted to feel it. They didn't speak for a while after that. Not because they couldn't, because something was settling. Maya found a temporary job consulting with a nonprofit. Flexible hours, clear expectations, respect built in. Ethan met with an independent review board, answered questions, didn't deflect. The company announced reforms, real ones, oversight, training, worker input. Some praised it. Some said it wasn't enough. Ethan agreed with both. One evening, Maya stood on the fire escape of her apartment. The city hummed below. Sirens. Music. Life. Her phone buzzed. Ethan, I read your post. Thank you for writing it. She stared at the message, then typed back. Maya, I needed to. A pause. Ethan, I don't know what happens next, but I wanted you to know. I'm still here, listening. She breathed out. Maya, that matters. Across the city, Ethan sat alone in the guest house. Lights low, windows open. For the first time, the quiet didn't scare him. Felt like an invitation. Two people. Changed, but unfinished. And somewhere between accountability and hope, a question waited. Not about what they'd lost, but about what they might still choose to build next. The meeting room overlooked downtown San Francisco. Glass walls. Long table. A view that once made decisions feel distant. Now it felt exposed. Ethan sat near the end, hands folded, posture open in a way he was still practicing. Across from him were people he didn't control, labor advocates, a former judge, 2 employee reps, and a woman who took notes without looking up. No assistants, no lawyers speaking for him, just him. The chair at the head of the table stayed empty on purpose. This isn't a trial, the judge said. It's a reckoning. Ethan nodded. I understand. And for the first time, he meant it without rehearsing the words. Maya took the BART across the bay. She hadn't planned to attend anything today, but the invitation came with no pressure, no expectation. Just an option. Observer seat available. No obligation to speak. She almost didn't go. Then she remembered the nights she'd cleaned offices after midnight, moving through buildings that never noticed her unless something went wrong. She wanted to see what noticing looked like now. The train rocked gently. She watched her reflection in the window, calm, steady, older than she felt a month ago. When she arrived, no one stared. That felt new too. The review board moved slowly. They didn't ask for apologies. They asked for processes. How are cleaners scheduled? Who decides access rules? What recourse exists when someone feels unsafe? Ethan answered. When he didn't know, he said so. He wrote notes, asked for time, didn't rush. When the topic turned to the chair incident, the room went quiet. Not heavy, focused. It was wrong, Ethan said. Not just the reaction, the system that allowed it. He paused, breathed. I built rules to protect myself. I didn't consider who they trapped. No one clapped. No one argued. They kept going. That felt like progress. Maya sat near the back, hands folded in her lap. She listened without leaning forward, without shrinking. At one point, the employee rep glanced at her. Not as a symbol, as a person. Later, during a break, a woman from facilities approached. I'm glad you're here, she said quietly. Me too, Maya replied. They stood side by side, watching the city move beyond the glass. The reforms took shape over hours. Clear boundaries, human-centered protocols, worker councils with real authority, independent audits, mental health accommodations that didn't isolate or punish. Ethan signed onto every one, not as a favor, as a responsibility. When the meeting ended, the judge closed her folder. "This is a start," she said. "What happens next depends on consistency." Ethan stood. "I'll be here." He meant tomorrow, and the day after that. Outside, the air felt lighter. Maya stepped onto the sidewalk and waited for the signal to change. People crossed around her, wrapped in their own days. She felt grounded, tired, clear. Ethan approached slowly, stopping a few feet away. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I came for me," she replied, then softened. "But you're welcome." They shared a small smile. Not easy, not awkward, honest. "I'm not asking for anything," he said. "Just wanted you to know. I'm still working." "I can see that," Maya said. A beat. "Take care of yourself," he added. "You too." The light changed. They crossed in opposite directions. Neither looked back. Weeks passed. The headlines moved on. The work didn't. Maya settled into her consulting role. She helped draft guidelines that sounded like people, not policies. She spoke when she wanted, rested when she needed. She laughed more. Ethan spent mornings with teams he used to avoid. He listened to discomfort without flinching. He learned when to step back. The guest house stayed his home. The chair remained empty. One evening, Maya found a note slipped under her door. Handwritten. Simple. Community forum. Saturday. If you want to speak or not speak. Either way. She stared at it for a long time. Then she placed it on her table next to her keys. Across the city, Ethan sat with the same kind of paper in his hands. An invitation to, not to lead, to show up. Two paths. Still separate, but moving. And as the date circled closer, both felt the same quiet pull. The sense that the next step wouldn't be about the past, but about who they were willing to become in public, together or apart. When the room finally listened, the community forum took place in a converted high school gym in Oakland, the kind with scuffed wood floors and banners from championships long past. Folding chairs formed loose rows. A table at the front held pitchers of water and a single microphone. No stage lights, no security ropes, just people. Maya arrived early. She chose a seat near the aisle halfway back. Not hiding, not leading. She watched neighbors file in. Cleaners still in work shirts, office staff with tote bags, a few managers she recognized from meetings. Some nodded at her, some didn't. That was okay. She was here to be present, not praised. Across the room, Ethan entered quietly. No entourage. He wore a simple jacket, hands empty. He stopped when he saw her, not to approach, just to acknowledge. She met his eyes and gave a small nod. It was enough. The moderator opened the forum with plain words. "This is a space to talk about work, dignity, and safety," she said. "No speeches, just listening." People spoke in turns. A janitor talked about broken locks on supply rooms. A receptionist described panic when cameras followed her every move. A supervisor admitted she didn't know how to push back when policies felt wrong. Maya listened. Ethan listened. The room shifted with each voice. When the mic reached Maya, she stood slowly. Her hands didn't shake. "My name is Maya," she said. "I worked as a cleaner for years." A few murmurs. Recognition. "I'm not here to relive anything," she continued. "I'm here because what happened to me wasn't rare. It was just visible." Silence held steady. "I want systems that assume humanity first," she said. "Not suspicion. Not fear." She paused. Let it land. "And I want us to remember that rules don't protect people unless people matter to the rules." She handed the mic back. Sat down. Her heart beat fast, then steadied. Later, the moderator turned to Ethan. "You don't have to speak," she said. "I want to," he replied. He stood where he was. No microphone. "My name is Ethan," he said. I built systems that made me feel safe. They also caused harm. No excuses followed. I'm learning that control isn't the same as care, he said. And that listening doesn't end when meetings do. He looked around the room. I don't expect forgiveness, he added. I do expect accountability. From myself. Ongoing. He sat. The room didn't erupt. It breathed. Afterward, people lingered. Conversations formed in small circles. Numbers were exchanged. Ideas scribbled on notepads. Maya stood near the exit sipping water. A woman approached her with tired eyes and a hopeful smile. Thank you, she said. I didn't think anyone like me would be heard. Maya smiled back. You already were. Outside, dusk settled over the parking lot. Ethan stepped out a moment later. He stopped a respectful distance away. That mattered, he said. It mattered to me too, Maya replied. They stood, listening to the city. Cars passing, someone laughing, the low hum of evening. I'm moving offices, Ethan said. Closer to where people actually work. That sounds like a good start, Maya said. He nodded. If you ever want to help shape what comes next. She held up a hand, gentle. I'll think about it, she said. No rush. Of course. They shared a quiet understanding. Weeks later, change showed up in small ways. New schedules posted with input from crews. Break rooms repainted by request. Policies rewritten in clear language. Maya consulted when she chose. Declined when she needed rest. Ethan learned to wait. One afternoon, Maya received an email with a subject line that made her pause. Invitation. Co-chair, Worker Advisory Council. She didn't open it right away. She stared out her window at kids riding bikes, at a woman watering plants. Freedom felt different now. Not taken. Not granted. Chosen. She opened the email. Read it twice. Closed her laptop. Across the bay, Ethan watched the sun dip behind buildings from a bench near the office. He didn't check his phone. He waited. For her answer. For the work. For whatever came next. And in that waiting, both felt the same quiet truth. The hardest changes don't announce themselves. They ask, softly, who you are willing to stand beside. When the room finally listens. The letter came on a Tuesday. No envelope seal. No logo. Just her name printed cleanly across the front. Maya stood in the hallway of her apartment building in Berkeley. Mail in one hand, keys in the other. The building smelled like old paint and someone's dinner drifting from down the hall. She didn't open it right away. She'd learned that freedom wasn't always loud. Sometimes it showed up quietly, asking to be handled with care. Inside her apartment, she set the letter on the small kitchen table and poured a glass of water. She stood there, listening to the hum of the fridge, the distant sound of traffic. Then she opened it. It wasn't long. An official invitation to help co-lead the Worker Advisory Council. Paid, protected, independent, real authority, not symbolic. At the bottom was a single line, handwritten. Your voice belongs wherever decisions are made. Maya sat down slowly. Her chest tightened not from fear, but from weight. The kind that comes when something matters. Across the bay, Ethan sat in a conference room he no longer controlled. The chair at the head of the table was still empty. He sat off to the side, listening as others debated details he once decided alone. The room was warmer now, louder, messier, more human. A facilities manager pushed back on a policy draft. A cleaner suggested a change that saved time and strain. No one looked at Ethan for permission, and that was the point. His phone buzzed once. He didn't check it. He was learning to stay present. Maya didn't answer the letter that day. She walked instead, down Shattuck Avenue, past the coffee shop where she used to sit between shifts, counting tips and hours, past the bus stop where she once waited in the dark, keys between her fingers. She noticed how different the street felt when you weren't rushing to survive. She stopped at a park and sat on a bench. A mother helped her child with homework. Two older men argued gently over a chessboard. A dog slept in the sun. This was what she'd fought for without knowing it. Not power. Peace. That night, Maya dreamed of the house again. Not the guest room this time. The living room. She stood near the window, light spilling across the floor. The chair was still there, but empty. No one watching. No rules hanging in the air. She woke before sunrise, calm. She made coffee and finally replied to the email. I'll accept. With conditions. She listed them clearly. Boundaries. Transparency. Shared leadership. She hit send. Then she sat back and let the day begin. The council's first meeting took place in a rented space near downtown Oakland. No glass walls. No skyline view. Just a long table, mismatched chairs, and a whiteboard covered in ideas. Maya arrived early. So did Ethan. They greeted each other with a nod. No past between them. Only work. The meeting moved slowly, carefully. People spoke. People disagreed. People paused to think. Maya facilitated without dominating. She asked questions that opened doors. Ethan took notes, offered resources when asked, stayed quiet when not. At one point, a young cleaner spoke up, voice shaking. I don't want to be scared at work anymore, she said. Maya met her eyes. You shouldn't have to be. The room leaned in. Something solid formed there. Outside, rain began to fall. By the time the meeting ended, the sky had darkened and the streets shone with reflected light. Maya packed her bag. Ethan waited by the door. You did well, he said. So did you, she replied. They stepped outside together, stopping under the awning. Rain tapped the pavement, steady and clean. I used to think freedom was something I could give, Ethan said quietly. Now I know it's something I have to protect. Maya nodded. And something people choose for themselves. They stood in silence, listening to the rain. I'm glad you're here, he added. So am I, she said. Not because of him, because of herself. Later that week, Maya returned to her old building. Not as a cleaner, but as a consultant. The security desk recognized her, smiled. She walked the halls with a clipboard, noting small things that once felt invisible. Broken lights, locked doors, corners that felt unsafe. She wrote them down, not as complaints, as promises. In one office, she paused by a familiar chair. She didn't sit. She didn't need to. That evening, Ethan sat alone in the guest house. He'd moved back into the main house recently, slowly reclaiming space without tightening his grip. He still struggled some days, still counted steps, still corrected small things. But he noticed when he was doing it and why. He opened his laptop and read the council's first summary report. Clear, honest, demanding. He signed it, without edits. Maya stood on her balcony, phone in hand. A message had come through. Thank you for pushing when it was hard, it read. This is only the beginning. She didn't reply right away. She looked out at the city lights, at the quiet strength she felt settling in her chest. Freedom wasn't loud. It didn't shout or punish. It stayed. And as the night deepened, Maya felt something else too. Not closure, not victory, but the steady pull of what comes next. When the work is real, the stakes are shared, and the future is finally open enough to step into. The backlash didn't come loud at first. It arrived in emails with careful language, in meetings with polite smiles, in articles that asked questions without asking them. By the end of the week, Maya felt it everywhere. She sat at her kitchen table, laptop open, scrolling through a trade blog that had once praised Ethan's company as disciplined and efficient. Now the headline read, "Is accountability killing innovation?" She closed the laptop without finishing the article. Outside, the city moved like it always had. Buses hissed at stops. Someone laughed on the sidewalk below. Life didn't stop just because power shifted. But inside the system she was helping rebuild, pressure was rising. The council met twice that week instead of once. Attendance stayed strong, but the tone changed. Some executives showed up defensive, others distant. A few didn't show up at all. During one meeting, a senior operations director crossed his arms and leaned back in his chair. "We're bleeding money," he said. "You can't expect the board to keep funding this without results." Maya didn't flinch. "Results take time," she said. So does repair. He shook his head. That's easy to say when you're not signing the checks. She met his eyes. It's not easy to say when you've lived the cost of silence. The room went quiet. Ethan watched from the far end of the table, hands folded. He could feel the old urge rising, the need to smooth things over to regain control. He didn't. He let the silence do its work. That night, Ethan drove instead of flying. He took the long route down the coast, windows cracked, radio low. The Pacific was dark beside him, steady and vast. He pulled over at a turnout near Big Sur and stepped out. The wind cut sharp. The smell of salt and cold filled his chest. He thought about the first board call after the changes went public. How one investor had laughed. "How long are you planning to let this experiment run?" the man had asked. Ethan had answered without thinking. "As long as it takes." He hadn't realized until later what that would cost. Maya's phone buzzed just after midnight. A message from a council member. They're cutting hours at the Denver site. Quietly, Maya sat up in bed. She called immediately. By morning, she had 3 confirmations. Nothing official. No announcement. Just schedules changing. Shifts disappearing. She felt the familiar heat of anger, sharp and fast. But she didn't let it lead. She documented everything. Then she called Ethan. They met the next day in a small conference room near the Oakland office. No assistants. No cameras. Maya laid out the facts. Dates. Names. Patterns. Ethan listened, jaw tight. "They're trying to wait us out," he said. "They think if they make it uncomfortable enough, we'll back down," Maya replied. He nodded once. "They might be right." She looked at him. "About what?" "That it will get uncomfortable." Pause. "But they're wrong about the rest." The board meeting was scheduled for Friday. By Thursday night, the story had leaked. A national outlet ran a piece questioning whether the company's internal reckoning had gone too far. Maya didn't read the comments. She didn't need to. She'd heard them before, just in different words. Friday morning, the boardroom felt colder than usual. Glass walls. Long table. City skyline washed in gray. Ethan took his seat without ceremony. Maya sat beside him. Not at the center, not hidden. An equal presence. The chair of the board cleared her throat. "We need to talk about direction," she said. Ethan didn't wait. "We need to talk about values," he replied. A murmur ran through the room. One investor leaned forward. "You're risking the company." Ethan met his gaze. "I risked it long before this. I just didn't want to admit it." Maya stayed quiet. Her presence said enough. The debate lasted hours. Voices rose. Charts appeared. Numbers were thrown like weapons. At one point, someone gestured toward Maya. "With all respect," he said. "This isn't personal." Maya spoke then, calm and steady. "It always is," she said. "When people are involved." Silence again. Different this time. He looked away. By the end of the meeting, nothing was settled. No vote. No decision. Just a delay. "We'll reconvene," the chair said. "After further review." Ethan nodded. Maya gathered her notes. Outside the room, she let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "That went worse than I hoped," she said. "And better than I feared," Ethan replied. They walked down the hall together. At the elevator, she stopped. "If they shut this down," she said, "I won't regret it." He looked at her. "Neither will I." The doors closed. That weekend, Maya visited her sister in Sacramento. They sat on the back porch while her niece chased fireflies. "You look tired," her sister said. "I am," Maya admitted. "Worth it." Maya watched the small light flicker in the grass. "Yes," she said, "even if it ends tomorrow." Her sister nodded. "That's how you know." Sunday night, Ethan sat at his desk, papers spread out. Old contracts, old policies, old decisions. He saw now how much fear had shaped them. Fear of chaos, fear of loss, fear of letting go. He drafted a letter, not to the board, to the employees. He didn't send it yet. Monday came with rain. Maya stood at a bus stop downtown, coat pulled tight, watching the city blur. Her phone buzzed. An email. Subject line, emergency board session, 2 p.m. She felt the pull in her chest again. Not fear. Anticipation. At 2 o'clock, the board reconvened. This time, the room was fuller. Lawyers. Advisors. Faces she didn't recognize. The chair spoke quickly. After review, she said, we have concerns about liability. Ethan stood. So do I, he said. That's why I'm done avoiding it. He read the letter aloud. Clear. Direct. Unapologetic. A commitment to the council. To transparency. To shared power. He finished and looked around the room. I won't lead a company that hides, he said. If that means I lose this role, so be it. Maya felt the weight of the moment settle. This was the edge. The vote was called. Hands raised. Some for, some against. Too close. The chair hesitated. We need more time, she said again. Ethan sat down. The meeting ended without resolution. Again. Outside, the rain had stopped. The air felt sharp and new. Maya and Ethan stood on the steps of the building. So, she said, still in. He looked out at the street, at people moving through their lives. Yes, he said, no matter what comes next. She nodded. The city kept moving. And somewhere inside it, something fragile and strong was about to be tested. Not by power, but by patience. And by how much they were willing to lose. To keep what they'd found. The story broke on a Tuesday. Not the kind of headline that screams, but the kind that spreads. Shared quietly. Forwarded with notes that said, have you seen this? Maya saw it while waiting in line at a cafe in downtown Oakland. Her phone buzzed. She glanced down. Anonymous source claims reforms are cosmetic. Internal rift at tech giant. She felt the familiar drop in her stomach. The barista called her name. She took the cup, thanked him, stepped outside, and read the article in full. It quoted unnamed executives. Suggested the council was for show. Implied she was being used. She closed her eyes for a moment. People walked past her. A bus groaned at the curb. Someone spilled coffee and laughed it off. The world didn't know it was shaking her. By noon, the phones wouldn't stop. Council members texting. Staff emailing. One message stood out. They're saying you're a liability. She stared at the words longer than she should have. Then she put the phone face down on the table. Ethan found out in a different way. He was in a meeting when his legal counsel slid a printed copy across the table. They're pushing a narrative, she said. If it sticks, the board will move faster. To do what? He asked. Separate you from the process, she replied. Quietly, he leaned back in his chair. And Maya, the lawyer hesitated. They'll frame it as her decision. His jaw tightened. They met that evening in a small park near Lake Merritt. No offices, no walls, just benches and water and joggers passing by. Maya sat with her hands folded, shoulders tense. I didn't sign up to be a symbol, she said when he arrived. I know, Ethan replied. They're saying I'm hurting the company, she continued. That this is about me. It's not, he said. But it will be, she replied. If this keeps going. They sat in silence for a moment. The lake reflected the orange of the setting sun. I won't let them do this to you, Ethan said. Maya looked at him then. Really looked. That's not your choice, she said gently. And it's not what this is about. He frowned. This work doesn't belong to either of us, she continued. If I stay and it costs the people we're trying to protect, that's not justice. He felt the weight of her words settle. You're thinking of stepping back, he said. I'm thinking of what helps this survive, she replied. That night, Maya didn't sleep. She sat at her kitchen table with a yellow notepad. Pros, cons, names, consequences. She thought about the cleaners who'd stopped her in hallways to say thank you. About the supervisors who'd quietly admitted they'd been wrong. About the ones who were waiting for this to fail. Her phone buzzed again. A message from her mother. I'm proud of you, no matter what you choose. Tears came then. Quiet. Unexpected. The next morning, Maya requested time on the agenda for the council's emergency session. The room filled quickly. faces on screens. Some tired, some anxious. She spoke without notes. "This work is bigger than any one person," she said. "Including me." A few people shifted uncomfortably. "I won't be the reason it ends," she continued. "If stepping back gives this space to breathe, I'll do it." "No," someone said. "We need you. We need the work," she replied. "And the work can't depend on one name." Silence followed. Heavy. Emotional. Ethan listened from the back. Every instinct in him wanted to stand up. To argue. To stop her. He didn't. He trusted her. That was new. The decision wasn't made that day. But the conversation changed. People spoke more openly. More urgently. What had felt like a fight between sides began to feel like a reckoning with reality. After the meeting, Maya packed her bag slowly. Ethan waited by the door. "You don't have to decide yet," he said. "I know," she replied. "But you're leaning," he said. She nodded. News outlets speculated. Some praised her restraint. Others questioned her resolve. She ignored them all. Instead, she visited a site in Fresno where cleaners had recently won safer schedules. She listened to their stories. She remembered why she'd started. The board met again that Friday. This time, Maya wasn't there. Ethan stood alone. The chair addressed him directly. "If this continues," she said, "we will ask for your resignation." He didn't answer right away. He thought about the chair he used to guard like a throne. About the woman who'd slept in it, exhausted, unseen. "I understand," he said finally. That night, Ethan sent the letter he'd written days before. Not to the board. To everyone. It named the resistance. Acknowledged the cost. Reaffirmed the commitment. He didn't mention Maya. He didn't need to. Her influence was everywhere. Maya read the letter at home, sitting on the floor with her back against the couch. She smiled through tears. Her phone rang. "Ethan." "I meant every word," he said. "I know," she replied. They sat in silence on the line. "I don't know what happens next," he said. "Neither do I," she replied. But there was something steadier in her voice now. Something earned. As they hung up, Maya looked around her small apartment. It felt bigger somehow, like space had opened up. Outside, the city hummed on. And somewhere between pressure and principle, a choice was forming. One that would decide not just who stayed, but what kind of future was worth holding on to, when everything familiar was at risk. The week after the letter felt hollow. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just empty. Maya woke each morning expecting urgency. A call. Crisis. Something to respond to. Instead, there was silence. She made coffee, opened her laptop, closed it again. For the first time in months, no one needed her decision. The absence felt strange. Ethan felt it too, but differently. His calendar still filled itself. Meetings stacked. Messages poured in. But something inside him had gone quiet. He moved through the days on habit alone. The board didn't call another vote. Not yet. They let the pressure hang. A slow test of endurance. Maya spent her days walking. Through her neighborhood. Along the lake. Past places she used to rush by. She noticed small things again. A man fixing a bike with his son. A woman singing softly at a bus stop. A dog asleep in the sun like nothing could touch it. At night, she slept better than she had in a year. And that scared her. On Thursday, she took a bus to Fresno. No meetings scheduled. No announcements. She just wanted to see the site again. The break room smelled like lemon cleaner and burnt coffee. A few workers recognized her. "You back?" one asked, hopeful. "Just visiting," she said. They talked. About work. About kids. About weather. No speeches. Just connection. As she left, one woman pressed a folded note into her hand. "For when you forget," she said. Maya didn't open it until the bus ride home. Inside were names. Dozens of them. People who had benefited from the changes. People who believed. Maya stared out the window, holding the paper like it might disappear. Ethan's breaking point came quietly. He was alone in his office late. The city dark beyond the glass. He'd stayed after everyone left. Again. He opened a drawer he hadn't touched in years. Inside were old notebooks, early sketches, handwritten plans. Back when the company was just an idea. Back when he still believed systems existed to help people live better. He realized when that belief had changed. Not all at once, but inch by inch. He sat down on the floor, back against the desk. Let the truth settle. He had built walls so high he forgot what they were meant to protect. Saturday brought rain. Maya watched it from her window, wrapped in a blanket. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Can we talk?" No agenda. She hesitated, then typed back. "Okay." They met at a small diner off the highway, the kind with chipped mugs and a bell on the door. They sat across from each other in a booth. Steam rose from their coffee. "I might lose this," Ethan said. Maya nodded. "I know. I'm trying to decide if that's acceptable," he continued. She waited. He rubbed his hands together, a nervous habit she'd noticed before. "I don't know who I am without it," he admitted. She leaned back slightly. "That's not true," she said. "You just haven't met that person yet." He looked at her. Really looked. "And you?" he asked. "Who are you now?" She thought for a moment. "Someone who doesn't need permission," she said. A small smile tugged at her mouth. "But still needs rest." They shared a quiet laugh. The board's move came the following Wednesday. An official request. A formal letter. They wanted Ethan to step down as CEO. Remain as an advisor. A figurehead. Quiet. He read it once. Then again. He folded it carefully. And did nothing. That night he walked the city. Past restaurants. Past offices lit late. He ended up at the same bench near the bay. The wind cut through his jacket. He called Maya. "They made it official," he said. She closed her eyes. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "I'm thinking about saying no," he replied. She was quiet. "That will cost you," she said. "I know. And it may not save the work." "I know that too." Another pause. "Why do it then?" she asked. He looked out at the water. "Because if I don't," he said, "then none of this meant anything." Maya didn't answer right away. She thought about the note in her bag. The names. The people. "Whatever you choose," she said finally. "Don't choose it alone." The next morning Maya received an email. From the council. They wanted her back. Officially. Co-chair. Authority. Protection. She read it twice. Then didn't respond. Instead she went for a long walk. She thought about what she had given. What she had gained. What she was still afraid of. That evening Ethan sent his reply to the board. 3 sentences. Clear. Calm. He declined the request. Offered transparency. Invited dialogue. No apology. No retreat. The response was immediate. Stock dipped. Media buzzed. Internal messages exploded. Maya watched it all from a distance. Her phone rang again. "Ethan. They're calling an emergency vote," he said. "When?" "Tomorrow morning." She exhaled slowly. "Do you want me there?" she asked. There was a pause on the line. "Yes," he said. "If you choose to be." She looked around her apartment. At the quiet. At the life she could step back into. At the work still unfinished. "I'll be there," she said. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. Not from fear. From resolve. She packed her bag. Not as a consultant. Not as a symbol. As herself. Across the city, Ethan stood by his window, lights glowing below. Tomorrow would decide many things. Titles. Power. Control. But some choices had already been made. And whatever happened next would reveal, not who won, but who they had become. When the silence ended, and the future finally asked them to stand where it counted most. The boardroom filled early. Not with noise, but with tension. People arrived in pairs, then sat apart. Phones stayed face down. Coffee went untouched. Maya entered quietly. No announcement. No looks for permission. She took a seat along the sidewall, not at the table. Present. Grounded. Ethan arrived last. He didn't carry papers. He didn't greet anyone first. He simply nodded once and took his seat. The room stilled. The chair called the meeting to order. "We're here to resolve leadership concerns," she said. "This company is at risk." Ethan folded his hands. "So are the people inside it," he replied. A few heads lifted. Charts appeared on the screen. Stock movement, projections, risk curves. The language was clean, controlled. Maya listened without reacting. She'd heard this tone before. In interviews, in meetings where outcomes were already decided. One board member spoke up. "This is bigger than any one person," he said, looking directly at Ethan. Ethan nodded. "That's exactly why I won't step aside quietly." Murmurs rippled. "You're emotional," another said. "This isn't personal." Maya stood then, not abruptly, not defiantly, just enough to be seen. "It always is," she said. Every eye turned. The chair frowned. "This meeting is not." "It is," Maya said calmly. "Because you made it one the moment you decided who mattered." Silence pressed in. No one interrupted her. "I was asked to step back," Maya continued, "to make this easier. I almost did." She paused. "Not because I was wrong, but because I was tired." Something shifted. "They told you this was about stability," she said. "But stability that depends on silence isn't stable. It's fragile." She looked around the room. "And you know that." No one spoke. Ethan watched her, something heavy and clear settling in his chest. This wasn't about him anymore. It never had been. A board member leaned forward. "What do you want?" he asked her. Maya didn't answer right away. She looked at Ethan, then back at the room. "I want systems that don't collapse when one person tells the truth," she said. Another pause. "And leadership that doesn't treat accountability like a threat." The vote was called. This time, no delays. Hands raised, counted, recounted. The result landed like a quiet bell. Ethan remained CEO, but not unchanged. Conditions were set. Oversight added. Worker council protected by charter. Real power. On paper. Maya exhaled. Not relief. Release. After the meeting, the room emptied slowly. No congratulations. No speeches. Just people absorbing what had happened. Ethan found Maya near the exit. "You didn't have to do that," he said. "Yes," she replied. "I did." They shared a look that carried months of work, tension, and trust. "What now?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "Now comes the harder part," she said. "Living it." The weeks that followed tested everything. Not with headlines, with details, budgets, hiring, accountability reviews. Some leaders left. Others stayed and learned. The council gained real footing. Not perfect, but present. Maya took on the role officially. Not as a shield, as a builder. One afternoon, she walked through a newly renovated break room. Fresh paint, better lighting, lockers that worked. A cleaner she recognized smiled. "They listened," the woman said. Maya nodded. "They're learning." Ethan adjusted too. He moved offices, sat in meetings he once avoided. He learned when to speak, and when not to. One night he stayed late and found the chair empty. He didn't flinch. He smiled. But change has a cost, and not everyone forgives. A lawsuit surfaced, from a former executive. Media circled again. Pressure returned. Different shape. Same weight. Maya felt it one evening as she packed up her bag. She paused. Her reflection in the glass looked tired, but steady. Ethan met her downstairs. "You okay?" he asked. "I am," she said. "But this isn't over." He nodded. "I know." They stood outside the building, traffic humming past. "You ever wish you'd walked away?" he asked. She thought for a moment. "No," she said. "But I do wish it were easier." He smiled. "Me too." That night, Maya opened the folded note again. The names. She added one more. Her own. Across the city, decisions were being made. Not all of them kind. Not all fair. But the ground had shifted. And those who felt it knew. The next test wouldn't be about power taken, but power sustained. about whether the changes would hold. When attention faded, when fatigue set in, and when the hardest question arrived, what happens after you win and have to keep choosing the same thing every single day? Change didn't arrive with applause. Came quietly in days stacked on days. Maya learned that the hardest part wasn't starting the work. It was staying with it after the excitement faded. 3 months passed. No breaking headlines. No emergency votes. Just routines. She spent mornings reviewing reports from different sites: Atlanta, St. Louis, San Diego. Each one told a small story. Some hopeful, some unfinished. Progress didn't move in straight lines. It bent. It stalled. Sometimes it slid backward. She stopped expecting perfection. She started measuring honesty. Ethan's role changed in ways he hadn't expected. He still led meetings, still signed decisions. But now people challenged him. In public, in writing, and he let them. Some nights he drove home later than usual, not because of work, but because he sat in his car thinking about the man he had been, about how easy it was to confuse control with safety. He didn't miss that version of himself, but he understood him now. The lawsuit dragged on. Depositions, statements, delays. The former executive's story shifted as evidence surfaced. Not dramatically, just enough. Public opinion softened, then moved on. The company didn't celebrate. They stayed focused. Maya returned to Fresno again. This time she brought 2 council members with her. They sat in folding chairs in a small meeting room while workers spoke openly. Not to impress anyone. To be heard. A man near the back raised his hand. "I don't trust companies," he said plainly. "But this feels different." Maya nodded. "You don't owe trust," she said. "We owe consistency." That felt right. On the drive back, the road stretched long and flat. Fields passed by in quiet rows. One of the council members asked, "How do you not burn out?" Maya thought for a moment. "I let myself believe that rest is part of the work," she said. She wasn't always good at it, but she was learning. Ethan faced his own reckoning when an old investor called. "I don't recognize you anymore," the man said. Ethan smiled slightly. "That makes 2 of us." The call ended without resolution. He didn't feel the loss the way he thought he would. Some ties were meant to loosen. The first real test came unexpectedly. A warehouse in Ohio failed an inspection. Not because of malice, because of neglect. Old habits resurfacing. The report landed on Maya's desk late on a Thursday. She read it carefully, then forwarded it to Ethan with one line. "We need to go." They flew out the next morning. No press, no warning. The warehouse manager was defensive at first. "These things take time," he said. Maya walked the floor instead of arguing. She saw worn gloves, dim lights, a broken exit sign. She turned to him. "This isn't about time," she said. "It's about attention." He looked down. They didn't fire anyone that day. They made a plan. Clear steps. Clear accountability. When they left, the manager shook Maya's hand. "I didn't expect you to show up," he said. She replied, "Neither did I." Back home, exhaustion settled deep. Maya slept for almost 12 hours straight. Ethan spent the weekend alone, sorting through old files he no longer needed. He shredded more than he kept. Letting go felt physical. One evening, Maya stood on her balcony watching the city lights blink on. She felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Pride. Not in herself. In the process. Her phone rang. "Ethan, you still standing?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "You?" "Barely," he admitted. She smiled. "That means we're doing it right." The board issued a final statement weeks later. The reforms would remain. Permanently. The council's charter expanded. Oversight formalized. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Maya read the announcement twice, then closed her laptop. She didn't cry. She breathed. That night, she and Ethan met by the bay. The same bench. The same cold air. Different people. "We did something," he said. "We started something," she corrected. He nodded. Silence settled between them. Not awkward. Earned. I don't know what happens after this, Ethan said. Maya looked out at the water. Neither do I, she replied. But I know this. She turned to him. Whatever comes next won't undo what we learned. He felt that truth land. As they stood to leave, Maya felt a familiar pull in her chest. Not fear. Anticipation. There was still one thing unresolved. Not the company. Not the lawsuit. Something quieter. Something personal. The kind of question that waits patiently. The kind that doesn't force itself forward. Simply asks, after everything you've fought for, after all the noise fades, who do you become? When the work no longer needs you to be brave, but asks you to be honest about what you want to keep for yourself? Spring came softly, not all at once, not like a switch. It arrived in pieces. Open windows, longer light, jackets left behind. Maya noticed it on a Tuesday morning while walking to a neighborhood cafe. The same one she used to pass without stopping. Today she went in. The bell above the door rang. She ordered black coffee. No rush. She sat by the window and watched people move through their day. For the first time in a long while, she wasn't planning 10 steps ahead. She was just there. The lawsuit ended quietly. No courtroom drama. No final speeches. A settlement. Terms agreed. Responsibility accepted. The former executive released a statement that sounded practiced. The press ran it for a day. Then something unusual happened. People stopped asking. The company no longer felt like a headline. Felt like a place again. Ethan read the final documents alone in his office. Same desk. Same view. Different weight in his chest. He signed his name once. Then closed the folder. That chapter didn't slam shut. It rested. They marked the end not with a party, but with a meeting. Council members, managers, workers from different sites. No stage, no spotlight, just a circle of chairs. People spoke honestly, about what changed, about what still scared them, about what felt better. Maya listened more than she talked. When someone asked her what came next, she answered simply. More listening, she said. Afterward, she and Ethan walked outside together. The city hummed. Traffic. Voices. A distant siren. Life continuing. You did what you came to do, Ethan said. She shook her head. I did what I stayed to do. He smiled at that. They didn't see each other every day anymore. And that was okay. Their lives had room again. Boundaries that felt healthy, not distant. Sometimes they met for lunch. Sometimes weeks passed. The connection didn't fade. Settled. Maya went back to Fresno one last time. Not for work. For dinner. The same woman from the apartment complex hugged her tight. You changed things, she said. Maya replied gently. We did. On the drive home, the road felt familiar. Not heavy. Grounded. Ethan made a decision that surprised the board. He stepped down as CEO. Not immediately. Not dramatically. He stayed on as chair. Mentor. Advisor. I don't need to run everything to care about it, he told them. Some resisted. Most understood. Leadership didn't vanish. Transformed. His days changed shape. Morning walks. Fewer meetings. Time he didn't know what to do with at first. Then one afternoon, he found himself at a community center. Volunteering. No cameras. No introductions. Just folding chairs and listening to people talk about their lives. He liked being unknown. One evening, months later, Maya and Ethan met again by the bay. Same place. Different season. The water reflected the sky in soft colors. They stood side by side. Comfortable. I'm leaving the council, Maya said. Ethan turned to her. Leaving. Rotating, she clarified. It was never meant to be permanent. What's next? She smiled. I don't know yet. He nodded. That's not like you. She laughed quietly. I know. They walked for a while. No rush. At one point, Ethan stopped. There's something I never said, he began. Maya waited. I'm sorry, he said. Not just for what happened, but for who I was when it did. She looked at him. I forgave you a long time ago, she said. I stayed because you changed. He let that sink in. They reached the end of the path. City lights ahead. Water behind. I don't want to lose this, he said. She considered his words carefully. You won't, she said. But it can't stay the same. He nodded. I don't want it to. Weeks later, Maya stood in an empty office. Her last box by the door. Sunlight through bare windows. She took one last look. Not with sadness. With gratitude. Her new place was smaller. Quieter. Closer to the ground. She filled it slowly. A plant. A lamp. A table by the window. She slept better there. Ethan visited once. No announcement. Just a knock. They cooked dinner together. Burned the first attempt. Laughed. Felt ordinary. And that felt like everything. On a warm night, they sat on the porch. Crickets. Distant traffic. Maya rested her elbows on her knees. Do you ever think about how close it all came to going wrong? She asked. All the time, Ethan said. And I think about how it didn't. She smiled. They didn't label anything. They didn't rush. They chose each day. That was enough. One morning, Maya received an email from a young woman. She worked at a company that reminded Maya of the old days. She asked for advice. Maya replied with a single line. Pay attention. And don't look away. She closed her laptop. Outside, the day waited. Life didn't become perfect. Work was still work. People still failed. But something had shifted. Not in systems alone. In choices. Late one evening, Ethan stood alone in his old office for the last time. The lights dim. The city glowing beyond the glass. He didn't feel loss. He felt release. Across town, Maya stood at her window. Same moon. Different view. She thought about the woman she had been when she first walked away. How strong she had needed to be. How tired. She touched the glass lightly. She wasn't that woman anymore. She was more. Some stories end with answers. This one ended with something better. Clarity. Choice. And the quiet understanding that power doesn't come from what you control, but from what you're willing to change. When no one is watching. And even now, with the hardest chapters written, with the noise behind them, with the future open and unwritten, one question remained. Not urgent, not loud, but steady. What kind of life do you build when you finally stop surviving and start choosing what and who you let stay? Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.